all-time high right now, above $113,000. That's the highest it's ever been in history. It means 100% of people that have ever owned Bitcoin are in profit as long as they didn't sell it at some point in the past. So everyone throughout the entirety of Bitcoin's history for the last 16 years, if you held on to it, you are in profit right now because Bitcoin is at an all-time high. It's the highest it's ever been. Literally nobody has ever bought Bitcoin at a price that's higher than it is right now because it's the highest it's ever been, above $113,000. Okay, so what happens now and what happens next? Okay, so a couple of things. One, typically, once Bitcoin has gone through a period of consolidation, in this case of 7 or 8 months, it's been about 7 months. Once Bitcoin's been through that period, what typically happens next is that it rises to a new sort of plateau. And in this case, most people, including James Check, the best Bitcoin analyst, is projecting sort of the next holding ground around $125,000 to $130,000 per Bitcoin. And the reason is at that point, Bitcoiners are in quite a bit of profit. So for someone who has, used to have for the last 7 months, call it $50,000 of Bitcoin, now they have $60,000 or $65,000 of Bitcoin. If they own one Bitcoin and they're used to it bouncing around $100,000, now they're bouncing at $125,000 and they're $25,000 wealthier. And so what happens is people start to decide to improve the lives of themselves and their families, which is exactly the purpose of money. The reason you have money is so that when the time is right, you can improve the lives of yourself and your family. It's the point of money. So people tend over a period of time that seems the last couple of times has taken around 7 or 8 months. That's how long it's taken for somebody to get used to being at a new level of wealth. And that means that's how long it takes for them to adjust to doing things that involve money. Let me give you a real world experience with myself. So James Check, my favorite Bitcoin analyst, is often saying, can you see yourself in the data? Meaning, is the way Bitcoin's price behaving consistent with your own personal experience of what you're doing with your own Bitcoin? So Bitcoin rises. I have 100% of my net worth in Bitcoin. The last of the money I have that was not in Bitcoin went into Bitcoin in the high $70,000. So my average cost basis is probably in the low $30,000. But again, that's because I have 100% of my net worth, my liquid net worth in Bitcoin, meaning I have tripled my liquid net worth, more than tripled already. But the last of that went in the high 70,000s. And obviously, I buy Bitcoin every 2 weeks. So I bought Bitcoin at 111. I bought Bitcoin at 109. I bought Bitcoin, whatever, 2 weeks ago at 108. It's just I'm always buying Bitcoin. But for major purchases from infusions of cash, the last was in the high 70,000s or something like that. Other than I think I got some sort of the blue money that came in that was like 109 or 111 or something like that. But anyway, so when people start feeling wealthier, they decide to adjust their spending patterns. So for example, over the last 7 months, while Bitcoin's been bouncing around mostly between 100,000 and 110, with very short time periods where it drops lower than that, and a couple very short periods where it's been slightly higher than 110, people like me are adjusting everything, right? So previously, I did not feel like I could afford a generator for my house because my electricity goes out about every other week because Entergy cannot keep my electricity on. But with Bitcoin above 100,000 a coin, I'm like, you know what? I can actually afford a generator. Now, I'm always buying more Bitcoin, so on net, it probably nets out. But over the last 7 months, I've paid payments for Georgetown University, where my wife is in grad school. I've paid payments for our kids' school. They're in a hybrid homeschool program. I've paid payments for this generator. I paid payments for this. I mean, it just feels like money's gone out a lot of ways. So over the last probably couple weeks, I've been thinking, you know what? I've sort of run out of things that I need to spend money on. And meaning I've run out of things that I need to liquidate Bitcoin to buy. The generator's paid off, the grad school, that's all prepaid, through at least until sometime late in the year. Like everything's all caught up. So when I check the price of Bitcoin and it's at, 109,000 or 111,000 a coin, I'm thinking there's really nothing I need that I don't have right now. And guess what? A bunch of other people felt the same way because over the last 7 months, it appears, based on the price today, above $113,000, that everybody who had something they wanted to do with their Bitcoin that involved liquidating their Bitcoin to buy a generator, to go on a nice vacation, whatever it is they wanted to do, build an add on to their house, upgrade their security system, all of the things you might want to do with Bitcoin. It took apparently about 7 months for people to get that out of their system, which allows the price to rise. People continue to buy Bitcoin, but the big difference is there's nobody to sell it at 108,000 anymore, right? So, it goes up to 108, 109. I check all my bank account balances. I'm like, I'm good. Credit cards are all paid down to zero. We only carry small balances just to make sure we still have a credit score. So it's like, all right, everything's like, there's nothing I want to spend money on. So apparently the same was true of a lot of people because about the same time that there was not anything else for me to spend money on to improve the lives of me and my family, the same thing apparently happened to a bunch of other people around the world. Now, somebody like me, I can't change the price of Bitcoin at all. I could sit there all day long buying and selling $100,000 of Bitcoin every 5 minutes, and it would have zero impact on the price. So my buying and selling behavior of Bitcoin has no impact on the price, except maybe one millionth of a penny or something ridiculous. But when you have hundreds of millions of people in the world that own Bitcoin, all of them are getting accustomed to a new higher price above 100,000. All of those people are making choices to improve the lives of their families and themselves. And at some point, they get it out of their system like I did. And I'm like, great, there's kind of nothing I want to spend money on. Now, what's going to happen? Well, when the price goes up to, in the case of James Check's estimation, somewhere between 125,000 and 150, or sorry, 125 and 130,000, it's going to take another breather. The reason it's going to take another breather are the people that are sitting on $5 million of Bitcoin are now sitting on six. The people that are sitting on 50,000 are now sitting on 60,000. The people, the OGs that are sitting on $50 million of Bitcoin, which is people way before I got involved in Bitcoin, they're now sitting on $60 million instead of $50 million. And what are they going to do? They're going to do exactly the same thing they did for the last 7 months. So once Bitcoin's above 125, 130,000 a coin, somebody like me starts thinking, you know what? I've always wanted an electric jet ski. Do I need an electric jet ski? No, I don't. Would it be fun to have an electric jet ski that does not spew out fumes and make loud noises and you can just putter around or zoom around? And it's all electric, just like my amazing Tesla 2026 Model Y I'm riding in right now. Yes, I love this car. Now it's, financed for 5 years at 6% interest with Trustmark. So, that doesn't affect the price of Bitcoin. But I probably can't finance an electric jet ski when Bitcoin's 130,000 a coin. Now, I don't think I'm going to buy one, but someone somewhere is. And someone somewhere is going to liquidate $18,000 and buy themselves an electric jet ski. It probably will not be me, but it probably will be somebody. And we're going to have to wait to absorb all of the buying patterns of everybody who is feeling wealthy now that we're at 125 or 130. And when we get done digesting all of that, and everybody who's getting on the Bitcoin train for the first time is done getting on the train, or everybody who is finally realized, hey, Bitcoin's a big deal and I should own more of it, has ratcheted up their ownership from 10% to 20% or 20% to 40% or 40% to 60% of their net worth, then at some point, demand will continue. The people who are done, everybody who wanted to adjust their lifestyle will be done doing that. And the price will again go higher. In the case of James Check, he's estimating by the end of the year, we'll be at about $150,000 to $175,000 per coin. And then we take a breather. Why do we take a breather? Because people would feel wealthy up there. And especially if we march up there really, really, really fast, then it's just not sustainable. You can't rise super fast without getting a price correction. So if we march up to 150 to 175,000 nice and slow, it means we're probably not going to get a big price correction after that. But if we shoot up there super fast, almost certainly there will be a price correction. Now, how low will the price correction be? I don't know. It could drop from 175,000 back to 125,000. But guess what? 125,000 is still higher than the 113,000 you can buy it for right now. So what's typically happens now, Bitcoin could fall back, right? I mean, we could be staring at $113,000 Bitcoin and tomorrow it could be back at 108. That absolutely could happen. But if so, so what? We take a little longer to chop sideways and digest everybody who wants to get off the train at 108,000 a coin with just a little bit of whatever Bitcoin they own to improve the lives of themselves and their family. And then we keep going up. So who cares if we take a little pause? But usually once we start getting a run like this, it's in the course of 3 or 4 days. My estimation based on just history of doing this a lot is it typically takes between 3 and 5 days to settle at a new level. So if somebody said predict what's going to happen to the best of my ability, I would say, well, within 2 or 3 days, we're going to be above 120,000 a coin, and within 3 to 5 days, we'll be above $125,000 per coin. At which point we'll start chopping sideways, and everybody will be annoyed, and everybody will say, "Hey, why is Bitcoin not doing anything?" And it's like, wait, it's up 100% in the last 12 months. It's not doing anything. Like, what other $2 trillion asset in the world goes up 100% in a year with virtually zero chance you're going to lose your money? There is no better risk reward trade off than Bitcoin. And so, yeah, you know, if 100% in a year is not good enough for you, I'm sorry. But like, that's as good as you're going to get by any legit asset. Now, that doesn't mean you can't trade penny stocks, but you're going to lose all your money. And 1 in a million people get rich. Just like at a casino, somebody wins, but not you, not the average person. The average person loses big time at a casino. So, in any legit real investment, Bitcoin is the highest return, lowest risk investment. That ratio of risk to return, it's the best of anything you could possibly invest in right now. So, what's going to happen? We'll probably get a run over the next few days to a price, 10,000 plus dollars higher than it is today, and then it'll probably cool off for a while. And then, give it a little time, and then it'll make another run later this year to another price significantly higher than that. That's typically what happens. It just takes time to digest. And anyway, I still think it's a good time to buy Bitcoin, although it goes up and down on its way up. So if you're buying Bitcoin right now above 113,000 per coin, just make sure you're patient. Make sure you're not buying with dollars you got to have next week or next month or even the next 6 months. You don't know. You don't want to be forced to sell Bitcoin at a price that is lower than the price you bought it for. So if you're patient and you can hold Bitcoin for a good multiple years, then it's a great time to buy Bitcoin right now. Again, it all depends on, make sure you're patient, make sure you're not doing anything dumb, make sure you're not using borrowed money, and stay safe out there. So that's what I think is going to happen. I think we'll get the next 3 to 5 days will push us somewhere between 120 to 130,000 a coin. Then I think we'll chop solidate. We'll chop around there for, I don't know, some series of weeks or months, and then we'll go up to 150 and do it again, and go to 175 and do it again, and somewhere along the way we may get a 33% pullback, or if we go up a lot really quickly, we could end up with a 50% pullback. But again, I think that's unlikely, and it depends. That's only if we go crazy. If somebody's like, I mean, if we shoot to 220,000 by the end of the year, I would say, yeah, there's a good chance we're going to get a 30 to 40 or 50% pullback off 220. Now, it might only last like 2 hours. It could be a matter of days or weeks, and then we're back at 150 or something like that. But if you shoot up really fast, it's unsustainable in the short term, very sustainable in the long term. If you grind up like we have been, it's a lot more sustainable in the short and long term. Although that doesn't mean we can't get 20 or 30% price corrections, which we have had. If you're paying attention, we have had, I think, 2 or 3 price corrections of at least 25 to 30% or up to 33% in the last 12 months. So you got to be ready for that. So stay safe out there. I love Bitcoin. It's the best investment in the world, and you're not late. It's still a fantastic time to buy Bitcoin as long as you're patient and as long as you can afford to hold it, for at least the next few years. It's the best investment you could possibly make, in my opinion. As always, this is not legal advice, not tax advice, not accounting advice, not whatever legal, tax, accounting, financial, not financial advice either. It's not any of those kind of advices. So have a great day, everyone, and celebrate the days of glory that push Bitcoin to new stratospheric heights, because they only come after weeks, months, or even years of pain and sideways grind, which is the case with every investment out there. Have a good one, everyone. Thanks.